Fountain pens and inks. Obsession? Maybe. Welcome to Urban Ink Spot. My name is Janine, and today we're going to do a progress report for my March 2025 pen and inks. I had 6 pens inked this month, and I would say that this is pretty much an all-star lineup. And I've been really excited about using these pens and inks this month. I did have one pen coming in with a B+, which has a 7.8 numerical rating, and we'll talk a little bit about why that is here in a moment. But overall, I would say that the pen and ink pairings were really enjoyable to use. I feel like I selected well this month based on what I knew I was going to be using my pens for, and of course, my pens and inks, they really delivered. So we'll start with the first pen, and this is my TWSBI Eco Cream and Rose Gold with the medium nib, and I had this pen inked with PW Akkerman SBRE Brown. And here is the pen, and here is the ink fill. This is a very full reservoir. I have filled this up, refilled this during the month because I have been enjoying using this so much. So this pen is the newest pen in my collection, and there is a little bit of a recency bias, I would say, where I know that I might be reaching for this just because it's so new in my collection and I've really enjoyed using it. When I picked this up at Goods for the Study on Broadway on the Upper West Side of New York, the salesperson suggested that I add a sepia or a brown of my choice, that a lot of people who had purchased this had really been enjoying that kind of a pen and ink pairing. So that's exactly what I did with this PW Akkerman SBRE Brown. And all in for this pen and ink experience, I gave it an A+ with a 10 rating. This pairing got 10s across the board for aesthetics, writing experience, versatility and reliability, shareability, and personal enjoyment. So I do think, to some degree, maybe there was some recency bias, but I bought this pen to be a workhorse. And I bought this pen so that I could grab for it pretty regularly, knowing that it would be a reliable choice. And that's exactly what it was. So with the pen and ink pairing, I really did like the way that this ink matches the pen. Writing experience, just like most TWSBI Ecos, the writing experience is smooth. You just don't really have any issues with them. Versatility and reliability as well. Like every time you pick it up, you know it's going to write, you know it's not going to have any hard starts or anything like that. The TWSBI line is really reliable like that. And because the price point on TWSBI Ecos is just really not super far out of reach, I would say that most people would enjoy this. Maybe not this exact pen, but a starter pen with a TWSBI Eco. I think it's a really good pen that's approachable, easy to use, pretty reliable, and with such a big reservoir, that's also really enjoyable. So certainly would share this out. And then just overall, it did what I hoped that it would do. It was a very reliable, easy writer that I could grab anytime and just jot some notes or sit down for a long writing session. So TWSBI Eco, A+ with a 10 rating. The next pen was my Lamy All-Star in a fine, and this pen is inked with Organic Studio Aldous Huxley. And the Lamy All-Star was one of my very first pens. I selected the Lamy because it has an interchangeable nib. So for those of you who aren't super familiar with the Lamy line, this nib slides off and can be replaced with other nib size tipping points. So the whole nib is replaceable very easily, I would say. This pairing got an A- with an 8 numerical rating. This pen is one of the first ones that I brought into my collection. This pen is one of the first ones that I brought into my collection, and this Organic Studio Aldous Huxley I got from a Surprise Me sample pack. And I heard someone talking about this ink on their channel one day, and I was looking at it thinking, that's a really cool ink. As it turns out, I had that ink in my Surprise Me pack, so really excited to put that in my pen, and soon after I ended up buying it. And this pairing is just, I do like to reach for these two together, especially because of the sheening on this ink. Now, I gave this an 8 for aesthetics because although I had hoped that this pen and ink pairing would match just a little bit more, this ink used to actually be a tiny bit lighter than we're seeing on this page. More teal, I guess I would say. It's had a little more teal in it. And I think it has changed. And so when I was writing with it, beautiful, but not exactly what I was expecting to see coming out of the pen. In terms of the writing experience, I love this. I love the way my handwriting looks coming out of this pen, and just grabbing it, using it, reaching for it all the time. It's a really easy pen. Versatility and reliability, I ended up giving it a 7 because this is a dry ink. And if I was taking notes during a meeting and I was pausing for any period of time, if I left my pen uncapped, which I tend to do, I had some issues with with hard starts on the ink. So for that reason, I gave it a 7 just for the reliability of writing in longer sessions where my pen might be uncapped. I gave it a 6 on shareability. Also another thing with the ink, because if this ink changes color over time, then it would be a little harder for me to recommend this ink to another person. And also with this grip, some people actually like the triangular grip on the Lamy. I don't mind it. I actually like the feel of this pen, but sometimes it just doesn't feel right in my hands. And that is one reason why I don't always want to grab for this, and one of the reasons I wouldn't always share this one out. And then for personal enjoyment, again, I like this pen and ink pairing. It is a comfort pairing for me, and I ended up giving it a 9. The third pen is my Black Robin Skateboard pen, and this pen is inked with a Kyono Oto Kokeiro. And I have this, it was originally a medium nib, and I had it ground to a journaler nib by Gina Salarino of Custom Nib Studio. And I really enjoyed this pairing. When I was originally inking it and talking about it, I was really excited to revisit this pairing because I remember fondly just how much I liked it. Well, interestingly, I looked back and realized I have never paired these two together. I thought I had. I was thinking of a different ink. So anyway, it turned out to be a great pairing this month. I really enjoyed it very much. This pen came in, the pen and ink pairing came in with an A rating and an 8.8 numerical score. So for aesthetics, I gave it a 9. I do enjoy this pen and ink combination, and this ink flowing out of this pen is really enjoyable. It doesn't exactly match any one color on the pen body, but it feels like it kind of goes, and I do like this color of yellowish green. For the writing experience, the journaler nib is one of my favorites. I did get a couple of pens ground with this journaler nib, and I really do enjoy writing with this. The ink flows really nicely. It is a very wet writing experience. And so if I needed to do a ton of writing with it, but long form writing, it was really great. But that kind of bleeds into why I gave it a 7 for versatility and reliability, because although it was incredibly reliable, it isn't super versatile if I know I'm going to be flipping pages in my planner to be jumping, planning for the week and jumping between the different pages. was marking, scheduled time off and other things. It just took a long time to dry on the Hobonichi Cousin paper, the Tomoe River paper. And for that reason, it's just not as versatile. But I also knew I was going to be doing a lot of long form journaling this month. And this definitely fit the bill for that. So that's why I gave it a 10 for personal enjoyment. Oh, you know what? For shareability, I gave it an 8 because I recognize that not everybody likes this color of green. I know it's not always a crowd pleaser, but it definitely is for me. And like I said, then for personal enjoyment, I gave it a 10. It fit exactly in the way I needed it to. Really glad to have this in the lineup. In my mind, this pen feels a little fragile. And I don't know why that is. It's a very light pen. It works. I mean, it's very easy to handle and I enjoy using it, but sometimes I'm a little bit worried about it. I have to have a pen sleeve for it because it doesn't have a roll stop or anything on it, no clip or anything. So I'm just constantly thinking about it, a little bit worried about it from time to time. But I do definitely love this, and that's why I gave it an A rating with an 8.8 numerical score. The next pen is my Sailor Pro Gear Slim Iris Nebula, and this is in a broad nib, and I have this inked with Pilot Iroshizuku Asa-Gao, and I think that this turned out to be a gorgeous pen and ink pairing. I'm really glad that I put these two together. Now, it's interesting, whenever I'm writing with this, and I know that it's probably the sailor nib experience that some people don't like, some people do. It's got that very noticeable feedback. When I'm writing with this, the word that comes to mind is smudgy. It just feels kind of smudgy as the nib goes across the paper, and I really like it. And because of that experience, I've kind of been thinking about maybe a different ink that would kind of match that experience. Maybe not match the pen body exactly, but kind of match the experience. And so, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe like a charcoal-y kind of, but maybe a chromo shader kind of ink would go in this nicely. Not really sure. Just kind of been thinking about it for a while. I gave this an A+ and a 9.4 numerical rating. So for aesthetics, how I feel about the ink and pen pairing, like, do I like what I see when I'm writing with this? Absolutely. Like I said, it's a great match. And in terms of the writing experience, if you like Sailor Nibs and that feedback that it gives, this is a really nice, enjoyable experience, especially with that broad nib. Now, in terms of versatility and reliability, I gave it a 7 because it's hard to use this pen when if I have a busy day at work and I'm trying to capture a lot of notes on an A5 Hobonichi Cousin page. I write larger with this pen because the nib is larger. And so I'm taking a lot of notes, but if I have a busy day, I'm ending up having to use rollover notebooks and other places to keep capturing notes or flipping to other pages. And it's not super reliable if I have a busy day, or it's not super versatile if I have a busy day. But I've also found that because I like that tactile experience and the feedback that it gives, I actually find that if I don't have a super busy day and I have an opportunity to be a little bit more creative, just jotting things down and brainstorming using this pen, I don't know what it is, but it kind of lends a little bit to a creative experience for me, and I've really enjoyed having this in the lineup this month. It's also been great for journaling. Then the last two pens are returning from the previous month. This is my TWSBI VAC 700R Mini, and I have this in a cursive italic on the normal side, and on the reverse, it is actually a broad. and I've enjoyed this one a lot. I ended up giving it an A rating with a 9.0 numerical score. Now, for the aesthetics, I have just this pen and ink combination has been really pretty, and I've liked the ink coming out of this pen. This experience has been enjoyable. And for the writing experience, I gave it an 8. Now, I don't always want to write with this with a finer nib, but in general, it has been pretty nice. Not a ton that I don't like about the writing experience. For versatility and reliability, I gave it an 8. For shareability, I gave it a 10. And for personal enjoyment, I do reach for this a lot. It's very easy to take notes with it. Having to screw this onto the back in order to lengthen the pen, that does take a little bit of time. So if I'm, trying to just take some quick notes, it's fine. It's not really a problem, but I do notice it more than some other pens that you don't need to cap or even screw the back on in order to make the pen a little bit longer. But overall, again, an A rating with a 9.0 numerical rating. And then the final pen that I had inked is from Muji. I believe this is a fine, as I was talking about on my currently inked for March. I believe it's a fine. I don't really see any markings on here that would tell me otherwise. And I just bought this pen sight unseen. It actually sat in my pen collection for a while before I inked it up, mostly because it fits really well into the Hobonichi Weeks, into the pen loop that I have on the Hobonichi Weeks. But in terms of other places where I have my pen, like if I have them sitting on my desk, this is just too narrow of a pen to hold on to any of the places where I store my pen. And because this pen clip is so high up, it's a little hard to hold on to. It also doesn't fit super nicely into any pen sleeves because it kind of just slips right out. So other than that, when I have it in my Hobonichi Weeks, and I've talked about this ever since I discovered it, this thing just slides so nicely into here, and it's really easy for an on-the-go pairing. I've really been enjoying this. I will say though, when I was comparing, I said I brought this pen back from a previous currently inked. And when I was comparing the pen swatch this time versus the last time, I think that I may not have had the ink in there that I said I had in there. And if you look at these are clearly different inks. Now, this is a problem because when I thought I was refilling my pen with this ink, I was actually using this ink to fill into this bottle. Let me say that again. So when I thought that I was refilling this ink into the pen, I actually had some of this ink still left over in the feed. And because I thought I was refilling, I didn't do a full flush of my pen. It is quite possible that I have contaminated this bottle with this ink. And I'm not sure I know exactly which ink this is. I think it might be, well, it's not this one. I think, or maybe it is. No, it's not. I think this might be my Platinum Classic Forest Black. And this one, for sure, is Yoseka Origin Series #1. So we'll see about that. I'm going to check in on that bottle when it's time to do the refresh for April and just see what I plan to do. But I gave this a B+ and a 7.8. This is a daily workhorse pen. It captures quick notes in a planner, but that, like I was saying, that slim profile of the pen does make it a little bit difficult for me to use it for anything other than slipping into this pen holder because it doesn't play nicely with my other pen holders. So I gave it a 7 for aesthetics, an 8 for the writing experience. I gave it a 7 for versatility, reliability, and also a 7 for shareability. But I gave it a 10 for personal enjoyment because I do like using this specifically for the purpose that I've got it in the lineup for. And I expect that this will probably just stay permanently inked, which means you probably won't keep seeing it showing up on my currently inked roundup every month, because I think it's just going to become one of those pens that just stays inked and just serves as a workhorse, but probably doesn't need to be featured every month. Speaking of workhorses, speaking of pens that perpetually stay inked, I actually have a couple of those. So this one will join the ranks of the permanently inked. Here is a TWSBI Ego. This is one of the very first pens I bought. And this one has Diatramentis Document Black in it. And it is a 1.1 stub. And I keep this inked all the time because I use it for titles and large envelopes, if I'm addressing large envelopes, because it is a water-resistant ink. And this one is my Platinum Preppy in I guess it's a 5 size. It's like a medium. And this one is also filled with Diatramentis Document Black. And this is, I have eyedropper filled this pen. I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried eyedroppering. When I first did this, I was super, super nervous. And my other eyedropper pen experiment didn't work as great as I had hoped that it would. I did get a little bit of staining on one of my pen pouches because I didn't understand about how to use the O-ring and how to use the silicone grease. But this one has since been filled and has been maintained pretty well, and it's been doing a great job. I'm curious to know if any of you guys have any permanently inked pens that just stay inked for a very long period of time. Even if you don't use them all the time, do you have any pens that serve that purpose for you, just in case you need to write an envelope or something, or anything that just stays inked that kind of serves as that next level of workhorse that just doesn't get a ton of love, but also probably does get a ton of love. So thanks for stopping by. I am really looking forward to some upcoming videos that I have planned. I am going to do a currently inked for April 2025. You'll see that coming up here soon. And then I am also going to do my Inkspot Chronicles, my Q1 edition. If you have not yet seen the introduction to that video, I go through all of my bottled inks and I weigh them in a very unscientific way. I weigh the entire, no packaging, just the bottle and the ink. So I have a baseline on how I've started the year. And at the end of every quarter, I am going to go through and weigh all of my inks again so that I can compare how much they weigh at any given time, so I can kind of extrapolate how much ink I might be using in a 1-year period. And for those of us who have ink collections that have somehow seemed to grow a little larger than we thought they would, this is really just a way for me to kind of level set what I have in my collection, think about how much I'm using, and then perhaps I can use that information to understand how many ink bottles should be coming into my collection at any given time, knowing how long it takes me to actually retire a full bottle of ink. So let's take a look at this radar chart. I've got the 5 categories that I am measuring all of my pen and ink combinations by. For aesthetics, the highest rating my pens got was a 10, and the lowest they got was a 7. On writing experience, the lowest was an 8, and the highest a 10. On versatility and reliability, the lowest was a 7, and the highest was a 10. Shareability, lowest was a 6, with the highest 10. And personal enjoyment, lowest 9, highest 10. So what is this chart telling me? Well, if I'm looking at this for the ones where I have the highest low score, that would be personal enjoyment at a 9. So we can tell that I really did enjoy these pen and ink pairings. And the very next one where I have the highest low score is writing experience at an 8. So much of the enjoyment has come from how much I enjoyed that writing experience. And, aesthetics and versatility and reliability, those two came in slightly lower, with the lowest being a 7 for both of those. I'm sure that the versatility and reliability and the aesthetics also drew that shareability number down. So there you have it, folks. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything else that you would like to see on this channel. And I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye.